Nobody's gonna go out with me.
Have you asked anybody yet?
No, but who would? I don't even have any good skills.
What do you mean?
You know, like nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills. Girls only want boyfriends who have great skills.
I'm going to be recording this. So I had about, 20 students or so say that they're going to join, but apparently sounds like Kosi has another review session at the same time.
Gotcha.
So I'll give folks a couple of minutes to get caught up.
Is that a Bob Ross shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just have to sort of make a decision where we want the little stream to come from. Maybe back in here. And I know this is going to look like we're destroying everything. Don't worry about it. We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
Yeah, funny. They have like I think my mom had a chia pet of him one time. Like, you know those chia pets?
Yeah, that's great.
It was his hair. It was pretty funny.
And now, Bob Ross Chia Pet. Watch it grow.
Fantastic.
At chia.com.
That's perfect. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. This is the final exam review. So I'm going to be going over updates, how to complete the final exam, and what's going to be on the final exam. So our agenda, for today is going to be, by the way, did you hear that background noise? Unfortunately, our gardener's here right now. Just, got one of those Volkswagens on his back and he's blowing. One of those things make so much noise. Anyway, so if it's too noisy, let me know. So we're gonna go over some dates and updates. I'm gonna show you how to schedule an appointment with me. We're gonna go through the results of the working from home during the pandemic survey, and then the survey, the actual survey is going to come to you from the Survey Monkey, and for some of you, it's going to go into your junk mail. And I'm going to show you how to check your junk mail in case it does go there. And then we'll go into the final review. What's actually going to be on the final, how to complete the final. That's going to take a little bit of time to do that. So is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about?
No.
No? Okay. So how are you feeling?
Ready to be done.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we all are. It's like ready for this to be over, all of this to be over. So we're going to go through the so some dates and updates. Just an update on terms of Cengage. The Cengage SAM Module 9 project was extended to this Sunday evening. So you have until this Sunday to get it done. And there are a lot of issues with the Macs. I'm going to mute folks. I'm just going to unmute your phones if you need to, so I don't get that background noise. If you do have a Mac, you're not going to be able to finish the last 3 items because it requires a solver. What is it? There we go. More. Here we go. It requires solver. You did cover solver in the exam for module 9, so you should know what it does, but be familiar with why solver is important, and it's a very cool tool if you can get it to work. It only works on PCs. There is another way to get solver to work. There's like a solver add-in, but I'm not expecting you to know how to do that at this point in time. So if any of you do have a Mac and you really do want to be able to use solver, then I will show you how to do that add-in on a Mac. But again, items, I think it's 12, 13, and 14, you won't be able to do without having difficulties. So I apologize for that, but you know, this is a different time. So that's module 9. Module 10, the exam, I extended it to this Sunday evening. So do that exam. Everyone needs to do the exam. And module 10 project, you don't have to do now. The reason, again, is that for all of you Mac users, which I estimate probably about, you know, 70 to 80% of you use Macs at home. And you can't use these tools. These kind of advanced tools called Power Pivot, Power View, and 3D Maps. They can't be activated on Mac computers, and I've tried other add-ins, and none of them really work. So just know what Power Pivot, Power View, and 3D Maps do. That may come up on the final. So those are the Cengage assignments, and then we're done with Cengage. So you guys have any questions about the Cengage stuff?
No, it's pretty straightforward for me right now.
Okay, good. And we have Ryder and Jalissa and Tara. Hi guys, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing okay, considering.
Good.
All right, so that's that. So the final, I'm going to send it out either later today or more likely be tomorrow morning, and it's going to be a take home because you know, that's what we're doing. We're all working from home, and you have a week to work on it. So it'll be due over a week. It'll be due a week from tomorrow, Thursday, April 23rd. And then we'll be done. The class will be over, and you'll be done. The final itself is going to be multiple choice and true false. Do you remember the survey that you took, the exam that you took on the first week that didn't count? That will be, I'm going to have some of the exact same questions. And the reason why I do that is because I want to see how much learning took place. So, you know, how did you do on the first week? How did everyone do collectively on the first week versus how does everyone do on the second week? And then I can make a comparison to see how well I'm teaching and how well you're learning. So it's just good feedback to have, you know, sort of pre-post data. So I'm going to get into the final towards the end of this discussion today, but that's the final. But do you guys have any questions right now about it?
How much percentage will it count towards our grade?
So in the syllabus, the final counts 10% towards your grade, but there's actually two parts. The second part is where you're going to be manipulating in Excel. I'm going to show you exactly how to do all this, so you don't worry. But you're going to be taking the data. Actually, you're going to be the data that we collected for that working from home during the pandemic survey check-in, and you're going to be creating a couple of pivot charts. It's pretty basic. And then you're also going to be creating a run chart. The run chart is going to be based on actual COVID-19 data from California. So you'll be able to make an interpretation and see if we have any trends or shifts or outliers. So it's going to be real live data. It's updated up as of yesterday. So
Okay.
That's it. So certification. we've decided to postpone the certification until summer or early fall, when it's safe for, to have you come back into the lab to be able to take it. They're offering certification from home, but because so many people have had so many issues with their computers, I decided that it's just going to be too difficult to manage that over the next couple of weeks, especially with all the other things that you guys have going on. So we're going to hold off on that. I know some of you are working, are working towards graduation, and you're like, I'm out of here. So if that's the case, we're still going to keep it open. You can still come back and take the exam, and if need be, we'll figure out a way to do it remotely. But right now, that's the only way to do it, because there's also we have some training software that you also would have to install on your computers, and it's just logistically it's too difficult. So unfortunately, due to the quarantine, we've had to postpone that until summer or early fall. Any questions about the certification?
When you say you're gonna send out the test later, are you sending in that Cengage, or not Cengage, but Marymount website or email?
The test is going to be sent by email. I'll have a link for you to get to there's two parts. There's a multiple choice to true false, and then there's going to be the part 2, which is going to be where you're going to be manipulating the Excel file. So that I'll post on my Marymount, but I'm also going to send that by email.
And you just want us to upload it to the Dropbox?
Yeah. I haven't created the Dropbox slot for that yet, but it'll be there. Oh, so speaking of that, yeah, I think I forget who asked. Maybe it was Lieutenant James, but somebody asked about the final. So the multiple choice aspect will be worth 10%, and then the part 2, which is the manipulating the Excel file, will be worth another 5%. That's to replace the 2. Basically, you're going to be doing a presentation, as you recall, for your Kaizen project, and we ended that because of everything that's going on. So because that ended, we have those points that we have to kind of account for. So I'm replacing that with, you would have done a pivot chart for that, and then you also would have done a presentation. So basically what you're doing to the Excel file will be the replacement for that. So yeah, I know in the comments, a couple of you say, hey, how come we're doing extra work now? Because, this wasn't required before. It's actually not extra work. It's just to replace the work that we were planning on doing because of the quarantine. And also, as you can see, we've reduced a lot of the work. We're not doing the certification right now. We did do module 10 project. So I extended all the due dates. So trying to make it easier on you as possible. Question?
I said thank you.
Okay, yeah. And then, so again, my extended office hours every day, Monday through Thursday, except when I'm having Zoom calls like this. You can make an appointment with me. There's this calendar app. I'll show you. I think I have to put this in widescreen mode. Called Calendly. So all you have to do, I have this in an email that I sent to you, but I'll send out another one, and I'm going to share this deck with you as well. So all you have to do is click on it, and it takes you to this Calendly web page. And if you want to schedule a 15-minute appointment or a 30-minute appointment, you can. All you have to do is just click on it, and that will take you to the calendar app. And these are the days that I have available, the time slots that I have available. And if you want to schedule an appointment like today, obviously, it looks like someone's already scheduled some appointments with me. From 12:30 on, you would just grab that slot, click on it, and then I get alerted, and then you'll schedule the appointment. Okay. So please feel free to do that. I've had, since we've been on the quarantine, I've had exactly one student that's asked a question during this time. And Harrison, he just wanted to check in, see how all this worked. So, so basically 2 students have. So, you know, I'm just sitting around here analyzing data and doing other stuff. So, I'm here for you if you need the help. Okay, so that's the Calendly app. Where else? That's it. So, you know, thank all of you guys for, you know, staying engaged and working through all this. I know that this is tough for a lot of us, and and you got a lot of other things going on, and learning how to do all this online is a big transition. And you know, you have technology issues, and you know, distractions at home, and the whole thing is very stressful. So I appreciate you guys keeping up the good work. And these are just very different times, interesting times. Okay, so let's get into the survey results. Okay, so you guys remember the survey results? Do you remember the survey we did a couple of weeks ago? Actually, it was just a week ago. All right, so I now have all the data. There were 54 or 53 out of about almost 80 students that filled it out, which is a pretty good return rate, although I would have expected 100% considering it was the worst 5% of your grade. But anyway, these are the results, and this is how they look in an Excel spreadsheet. So I put everything into a table, and it's a lot of data. And how do you analyze it? So I want to just so this is actually, so take a good look at this, because you're going to get this spreadsheet, and you're going to be creating some pivot charts based on the data in here, right? So remember, we asked stuff about, you know, what year are you? This is something that comes in automatically in SurveyMonkey, where you get a start time and an end time, and you can compute how many minutes it took people to complete. And then here are the actual questions, like, I've learned new skills during my time in quarantine. So each row represents an individual. I don't have any of your identifying information in here, so you can't tell, bless you, if you can't tell who's who. But I do have your responses in here, so you might recognize yourself, but hopefully you won't be able to recognize anybody else here. And then here are the results. Now, I'm going to have you go in and take a look at the data and make a couple pivot charts. I'm going to show you that towards the end of this discussion today. So how do I get out of my screen view? I'm stuck. There we go. Okay, so let's jump into the results. You want to see the results?
Yes.
Yeah, let's go through it. This is your data. I thought they were really interesting. And by the way, I shared some of these results with all the faculty, because it was really helpful to them. That, you know, it's actually some positive things in here. So I just want to make you aware of that. Again, nobody's individual information. It's just stuff like this. So here, first question: I've learned new skills during my time in quarantine. Nunchuck skills, bow hunting skills, computer hacking skills, stuff like that. And this is a pie chart. It's actually a special kind of pie chart. It's called can anyone guess what it's called? What does it look like?
A donut.
A donut.
Yeah, a donut. So they're called donut charts, which is just simply a pie with a hole in it, a circle in it. So that's all it is. And you can see here, it's showing the responses. It says that 72% of you said that you have learned something new, and about 30% of you have not said that you didn't. And the kind of stuff that you put down was like cooking, someone's trading in the Forex market, Zoom, reversing my sleep schedule, some better time management, more Zoom, cooking, piano, card games. If someone else's, another person's trading, someone's doing basic warehouse training. I guess a couple of you have gotten some jobs during this time. So anyway, all this is text, and there's actually a way to analyze text. SurveyMonkey, I had something actually called a word cloud. I'm going to show you how to do this yourselves, so you can see things that it just basically takes takes the words and how often somebody mentions something, makes the font larger. So you can see here, it looks like cooking and Zoom stand out. People are learning, people are gaming. Time management is a big thing. So that's what's going on with your learning. What's the most number of days in a row you've gone on wearing your pajamas, sweats, or bathrobe during the quarantine? Most of you are here 0 or 1, but about a quarter of you are saying more days than I care to admit. That's probably true for me. My pets don't understand this human pandemic thing happening right now, but they absolutely love having everyone around all the time. 87% of you said that's true. 13% of you said no. I own a cat. How much toilet paper do you have? Most of you have enough to last the next few weeks, but few of you are running out and having to use phone book pages and getting low, having to, asking for sparing the squares, and some of you actually have way too much, probably enough to wipe an army's whatever. What are you doing to keep yourself entertained during the quarantine? This question, by the way, came from one of your fellow students, and I forgot to mention that the students that submitted these questions, I think there were 3 of you, you'll get extra credit for that, which I think is kind of fun. Playing mobile games, riding motorcycles, watching Netflix, reading books. We'll go through this in a little bit. I have another way of showing the data. How much exercise are you getting during the quarantine? More, less, or about the same? Oh, it's kind of interesting that a quarter of you are actually getting more exercise than before. And about 22% are getting less, but most of the majority, just slight majority, are getting less than before. How about you guys? Are you getting more or less exercise?
Less.
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 Yeah, me too. Definitely less. It's pretty hard to swim these days. I thought I would be able to swim in the ocean, but I guess they closed the ocean too, so can't get out there. 90% of you support the safer home quarantine, and about 10% of you say no. Wish it was a little bit less, a little bit more lax. In comparison to your in-person classes, you found your online classes generally to be 13% of you said they're easier, 35% about the same, but 52% said that it's more difficult. Is that true? Have you guys found your classes most of you found your class to be more difficult?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What's making it more difficult?
You can't learn in person. so it's hard to retain stuff.
Reaching out to teachers is harder.
And also that like accountability, it's a lot more lacking.
Yeah, everything's more email,
Hmm.
no face to face.
Some of it, because we're
Like
not doing
it's
it in class, you have to kind of like teach yourself. I know for one of my classes, I'm having to like go on YouTube and find other professors' lessons to learn the material because we're not learning how we were in class. We're just going over the notes and then going right to Cengage. So we're not actually getting the lesson.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably true for any online class. It must be because, prior to the quarantine, I've been posting my video demonstrations on YouTube, and they're public, and some of those videos have got like 6,000 hits, views. So, and I'm getting comments from people in Hyderabad, India, say, hey, could you do this item for me? And I'm like, oh, I don't think so. Maybe if you come in Marymount, we can work that out. But anyway, it's I understand that's what's making it tough. It definitely is tougher. You guys did not sign up for this, but then again, none of us did. Okay. There's some optimism, though. I thought that this was kind of cool. It said, when this pandemic is over, I believe the world will either change for the better, be about the same, or change for the worse. And again, 52% said you think that the world's going to change for the better. And some of you, about a third of you said, exactly a third of you said it's going to be about the same, and some of you think it's going to be worse than before. Like the comments, everyone's going to turn into a hypochondriac. People are going to be more cautious. The world's healing right now. That's true, isn't it? I mean, if you look outside, I'm looking outside right now, it's like a gorgeous, clear day. I grew up in Southern California, probably during the worst smog, during the 60s and 70s, but, so I don't remember ever seeing the air as clear as it's been. Kind of nice. Maybe we'll be less reliant on Chinese supplies. We won't get caught again like we did this time. The environment's going to be better. These comments are both the better and worse. So people are going to go crazy because we've been kept indoors for so long, which is true. I used to live in Chicago, and as soon as the weather got nice, and in Chicago, nice meant, where it was sunny and in the 50s, they would come out and hang out by the lake, and just would be a zoo down there. So these are some of the comments. You'll be able to see all these in the survey results. I like this one. It's more of a hope, but I think we'll appreciate being able to go outside and enjoy the privileges of a first world country allows us. I think it allows us to experience a very small part of what disadvantaged countries experience, not being allowed to go outside, not being able to find groceries or supplies. So do you guys feel like that this is you've had a chance to reflect on the world and yourselves during this time?
Yes.
Yep, definitely.
And then, so that's about the world. And they're saying, when this pandemic is over, will you be better or the same or the worse? And more of you are a little more optimistic about yourself. You think you're going to be a better person. And about a third of you are going to see, it's going to be about the same. And some of you think it's going to be worse. Worry. So, people are worried about, they asked two questions about whether or not you're going to be impacted on the coronavirus personally. Are you worried about that? Some of you are, you know, about 25% of you are extremely worried or very worried. The rest of you are kind of somewhat worried. And then about a third of you, or, you know, 25% of you are not so worried, or not even worried, not worried at all. I don't know if you have any of those underlying conditions. You know, you're probably more likely to be worried. I know I have some of those, so I'm not, you know, I do worry a little bit, probably more than others. So it's definitely stressing me out. How worried are you about the impact of coronavirus on someone else that's close to you, maybe somebody you're living with? And that's a different story. You guys are really worried about your family members, right? We have almost more than 3/4 of you are worried about that. So, and then we ask these questions about, you know, how about your wellness? So, you know, your emotional wellness, environmental, intellectual, occupational, physical, social, and spiritual. And this question actually was asked during the first week as well. So I have some, I don't have it here, but I have some pre-post comparison data to show that the thing that's gone down the most is this one right here, the social aspect. That's your wellness has gone down in terms of being able to interact with others. Does that surprise you?
No.
Yeah.
Not whatsoever.
What is it about the social aspect? Because I mean, you guys are millennials, Gen Ys or Gen Zs, and supposedly you're all connected via the internet, right? Through the interweb, right? So is it just not this? Is it just not the same? How come it's having such a big impact on you, do you think?
Well, like, I can still talk to my friends every day if I want to, like, on like a video game or whatever in the headset, but in reality, it's not like seeing them and like going to do like going out on the weekend and stuff. Or like, I see my family, my close family, but I don't see like all my family. So it's just not the same. Like we're still human, even though we're millennials.
I mean, in reality, it's a lot different having that connection via internet, where you really can't see the person, in comparison to interpersonal relationships, where you actually interact with the person in front of you. It's very, very different.
Yeah.
Of our company, we actually had 2 people test positive at our company. And so we've had to stay completely isolated, which means I haven't seen my family at all. I've been completely 100% on lockdown since
Wow.
order went into place. And our company is still unfortunately open because we are considered like, I can't go into detail, but we make parts that are really important to the health industry right now. So yeah, it's been really hard because I haven't seen any. I've been completely shut in my house since the people at our company tested positive.
Wow, that's tough. So you're all by yourself? There's no one?
Yeah. I got the dog, the cat, and the rabbit. That's it. Yeah. And even with my aunt, like, you know, when we've been people going into the company, we've been doing shifts, working shifts. But anyone that doesn't have to go in and can work from home has been at home. So if you're not in the fabrication department, you're at home in self-isolation completely, especially in the offices, because the people that tested positive were in the offices rather than in the back in the fabrication. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, The social thing is if you're not, I guess there really is we're human if there's just not that real live contact where you can see a warm body and read their body language and just kind of hang out. It's just really not the same.
Yeah. Well, and for me too, because I have some people in my family that are really high risk. Like I have an aunt who's on dialysis right now. So because of what I was around and the possibility of with people at the company being sick and then with people still having to go in, it's just not safe for me to go out, not because of my safety, but because of other people's safety. So
Yep. Yeah, it's just it. I mean, if you're, young, healthy people, I mean, there are some young people, of course, that are getting sick, but a lot of young people are they're either asymptomatic or you get a mild case of it and they don't realize that they're spreading it around. So that's what they have to do until we get a vaccine, which may be a while. So we're almost done here. So how satisfied are with your current working from home arrangements? It looks like about a third of you you're okay with, you're satisfied with it or very satisfied. 30% of you in the middle, and then the rest are not so good. It's not working out so well. Compared to last week, are you feeling more optimistic or pessimistic about working from home? And looks like some of you are more optimistic, some of you are more pessimistic, and the biggest bulk of you are, it's about the same in terms of working from home. The top 3 biggest challenges you're currently facing while working remotely. So remember, you were asked to pick 3, and usually it doesn't happen like this, but 3 jump out, right? So the number 1 is too many distractions working from home. Again, going back to that social isolation thing, number 2 is social isolation. And then the third one is keeping a regular schedule. And some of you, communicating with the professor is tough, just the general anxiety about the coronavirus. I know that I probably would have marked that one. I watched the news last night where they had a physician going through one of the, she was ICU ER type physician, and she was going into the ICU and just showing all those poor patients that were on ventilators, and that just watching that stuff stresses me out. I think the advice has been not to watch the news or watch as little of it as possible, but it's hard not to. Do these make sense? This distractions, does that surprise you that jumped out as the top number 1 thing getting in your way?
No.
mm-hmm.
I think it's natural to have distractions. We have distractions even when we have to stay at home. So I think the distractions are a little bit more effective because we have to be confined to our spaces and confined to certain activities. So I think distractions are becoming a little bit more effective than usual.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. You just saw or heard that, my gardener was here. Of course, my family's here. We have my wife and 2 daughters. My wife is working from home. My 2 daughters one's in college, one's a senior in high school, and they're all working, and my dogs, they're constantly bugging me to be fed, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of distractions. By the way, a lot of you might wind up having a job where you do work from home. I know for me as a management consultant, I had an office, but for years I was pretty much always on the road or working out of my house. And so this is kind of probably good preview, some training of what the future of work's going to look like. So, and I think in the near future, there's probably going to be a lot of us working from home, don't you?
That's true.
If you can. And this is about what have you liked. I used some of the feedback here. Changing this class wasn't that drastic because most of it is online anyway. The video is really helpful. If I get sick, hopefully this person doesn't. The videos are helpful. More time to understand the class. It's nice to be home. Don't have to commute, right? The feedback, doing the projects is very difficult without someone showing how to do every step of the way. One of the things that getting together with your classmates to do the assignments, homework outside of class was helpful, and that's not happening. Doing a Zoom session once a week for an hour, which is what we're doing. We're actually doing it for like an hour and a half. Computer. So more tools. Anyway, so that was the feedback, and I've tried to incorporate that as quickly as possible. And then here's just the rest of the demographics, which sections of CS280 are you in, and pretty even distribution of the 4 sections that I teach. Here's, you won't have this in your database. What year are you in school? I never realized this, but I have a pretty even distribution of freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, which is good. Almost half of you are student athletes that responded to the survey. And in terms of your living situation, the majority of you are at home with your parents or other relatives. Looks like 5 of you, 10% are in the villas. Some of you are in your own place. Some of you in your own place. Some of you are in another place with others. I have 3 students that are now went home, and they're working outside the United States, and they're in, I think I have one in Pretoria, South Africa, Cairo, Egypt, and London, England, the 3 countries that I got. The zip code, I asked you for the zip code because I was going to have you pump these into the 3D maps, because you could actually plot in 3D maps where everyone's living. But unfortunately, we can't. I actually have a Mac at home, so I don't have a 3D map capability. But so anyway, so that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much the results of the survey. Anything else? So that, yeah, London, Pretoria, and Cairo. And then just closing thoughts. So those are survey results, and you're going to have a chance to analyze, create some of the same kinds of charts and graphs as I just showed you. So any questions or thoughts about the survey?
No.
No. Oh, so I was going to show you how to, this is just kind of a fun thing. You may have some classes in the future where you have to analyze open-ended responses. And so here are the responses to the question, what are you doing to keep yourself entertained while in quarantine? And we're starting to read through this. And this is just a lot of text to read through. It's like, well, okay, are there any themes here? You can go through and do something called a thematic analysis, which you kind of have to look through and find out what the themes are and how frequently people say things. And that's how we used to do it back in the good old days. And now we have these word cloud tools, and you can actually convert this into something that looks like this. Right, so I showed you that word cloud that SurveyMonkey does. This is actually a website. And again, the bigger the font, the more frequently it was mentioned by different people. So it kind of jumps out at you, like, you know, people are watching, right? A lot of screen time, of course. A lot of you are actually working, YouTube, exercising, doing homework, Netflix, videos, podcasts, yoga, nothing. Sleeping, I guess hanging out with your dog, eating, going to the beach, painting, playing. All right, so it's just kind of a fun way to show the data, and this is actually have been analyzed, and so again, the bigger the font, the more often it was recognized. Let me show you how to do that real quick. So I'm going to go into the survey data. This is what you're going to, and I'm going to highlight. So what are you doing to keep yourself entertained during the quarantine? I'm going to highlight the data and then copy it. Go to this website here called Word Clouds. Let me go back. Great. There's a bunch of them. Wordclouds.com, Worded Out, WordArt, TagCrowd. I think some of these allow you to create word clouds these are called word clouds that are in different shapes or images. So I think this was the one that I just used. No, it wasn't. Sorry. This one. Worded Out. So I'm just going to paste that text. Right. So that's all the text that we had in there. And I'm going to click. Oh, what happened? I'm going to click on Generate. And of course, I get an error. Let me try it again. That's it. All right, so this is a different font for whatever reason. It must randomly generate the fonts. But you can see it's got the same information as we had on the earlier version here. Okay, so it's as simple as that. What do you think? I think there's a way to, if you guys have questions, I'm trying to remember, I think there's a way somewhere to like raise your hand or applaud or give a thumbs up. If you have a question. And is there a discussion going? I can't see it. There is a discussion going. There we go. There we go. Fernando did it. Thank you, Fernando.
Yeah, it was just a demonstration.
Thank you.
You just go to the little three dots that are on the bottom, and you should have like the thumbs up or the clap sign.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Okay, so that's the survey. Are you guys ready to get into the final exam stuff?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here are the topics. I'm never sure where to put your faces in this. All right, so Kaizen, and we'll cover that in just a second. What are the different types of data? What's the difference between absolute and relative cell referencing? Remember those dollar signs? Amortization we covered, the components that make up the calculation. And then when we get into the run chart, so what is random and non-random variation? Remember data in nature, when you measure things, has random variation. You know, we all, takes us different lengths of time to drive to school or to work. That's random unless something special happens, and then that's called non-random variation. And there's rules to determine if you have non-random variation, because as you'll see, it's important to be able to interpret when that's happening. We're actually going to use the COVID-19 data for LA to do that. Those rules are that there's 4 to 5 rules depending on which version of the rules you're looking at. That's going to be on the test. Actually, that's going to be part of the take-home, or at least the Excel file manipulation part. All the questions are on the pretest, and I'll cover that in a second. What's so special about Solver, and what does 3D maps do? So the SurveyMonkey or the multiple choice true false, there aren't going to be that many questions on the test, so you should be able to get through that fairly quickly. Oh, and by the way, obviously this open book, open notes, and you can work on the exam with your buddy. Just don't turn in the exact same thing. You know, maybe pick a different question to show a pie chart, or change the font or colors or something like that. Okay, so those are basically the top level topics. Kaizen, remember this? Kaizen means change good, right? Or basically a way of continuously improving. We started our projects this at the beginning of the semester where we were trying to establish a baseline. We were trying to improve something about ourselves, whether it was, like in my case, it was, you know, losing weight through diet and exercise. That's gone out the window. With all this stuff going on. So I figured it was the same for a lot of you, although it may have been interesting to continue to track it along the way, but I didn't want to stress you guys out. So that's why I canceled it. So that's Kaizen. It's making small incremental changes and doing the same behavior each day, or making a slight increase. So like if I wanted to improve my fitness, I might swim one day 1,000 yards, and the next day, rather than doubling it, I'm just going to increase, do 4 more laps. So I'm going to do 1,100 yards, and then the next day I'll do 1,200 yards. So just continuously improving it and making small incremental improvements to get towards that major goal that I'm trying to achieve. That's how the Japanese do it. Sometimes you have to make drastic changes, but for most of us, the way life works, it's kind of a slow walk, and we just need to continue making the changes every day. So that's what Kaizen is. Questions about that? Make this bigger. Data are qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative data is it's descriptive. So it's just like the open-ended comments, right? Those describing information. Here's the example right here. It says it was great fun. And then we have quantitative, right? It's about numbers. And the quantitative can be further broken down into discrete or continuous variables, right? Discrete or whole numbers. You count things like colors or types of objects. And continuous is basically, it's numerical, and it goes, usually from 0 to some number. And then the quantitative data, the discrete and continuous, can be broken down into nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. A lot of the survey data is nominal. Ratio is typically about, numbers where you're measuring something like height or weight or temperature. And the acronym for this is NOIR, right? Nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. I'll come back to the other one. Amortization. Remember we did that, I think it was module 4, we went through amortization and created the amortization table, but you just really didn't know what it does. And then there's this, do you remember this guy? Where is he? I won't show that whole thing to you. So you could go back and look at the video. All right, so here are all the items that are on the pretest. So let's go through this. So if you are in Excel and you see this in one of the cells, this pound, pound, pound come up, do you guys know what that means?
Is it an error?
It's no, it's a good guess, but it's actually not an error.
I don't remember.
It just means that the cell is not wide enough to accommodate the information in there. So it'll just pop in. So either you have to change the zoom in or zoom out, or just make the column width wider so that it can accommodate all the information in the cell. Fast way to add up a column of numbers is to use which function? It's that sum thing. Changing the width of the column to fit the contents is auto fit. How do you insert a photo? Pasting a formula, but not the underlying, pasting a formula result, but not the underlying cell, what would you do? Remember the paste gallery? Paste gallery allows you to paste a whole bunch of different ways, which is, includes just pasting the value of the cell. So it'd just be paste value. If you want to add a new row, what do you do in Excel? Insert. Just basically, it's a insert new row. Pivot table, well, we'll cover that in just a second. What's the difference between a formula and a function? The difference between a formula and a function, let me find a new worksheet here. So in a formula, remember this is the formula bar, it always begins with an equals. And I might say, I want to calculate the sum of something. This is a function, okay? Remember this little fx, all these different functions that you can use. It happens to sit on the formula bar, but there's financial functions, there's logical functions, text functions, right? So those are functions. So formula is this whole thing. And then the function is this, basically it's functioning to do something, right? If you want to add a row of numbers, you might say sum of, or column of numbers, A1 to A10, right? So this whole thing is the formula. The sum is the function.
Got it.
Let's see here. Back to PowerPoint. What symbols used to multiply in a formula? It's an asterisk.
Yep.
What tools use to record a sequence of keystrokes in Excel? So that was just something we recently did. It's called a macro. Just basically, it's a recorder that will keep track of your keystrokes. Which formula can add all the numbers?
What is it called again?
Macro. Macro. M-A-C-R-O.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Let's see here. Move. All right, there we go. Which formula can add all the numeric values in a range of cells, ignoring those which are not numeric, and place the result in a different cell? What the heck was that? I don't remember what that one was. Which functions used to calculate depreciation rates of return, future values, and loan payment amounts? That's another one. And which keys do you press to group two or more non-adjacent worksheets? You guys remember? It's you hold down the control key on a PC
And drag it.
and then click on the worksheets that you want to grab. Let me do it right now. See if I can show you an example. So let's say I want to grab this sheet and this one. So I'm on my Mac. So it's different on a Mac. So on a PC, it's the control and left mouse button. On a Mac, it's the command. Where is it? Sorry. No, it's also, where am I? Oh, I've got it here. So I have sheet 6 highlighted, and I want to grab this worksheet here, this California COVID-19 daily cases data 1. So I'm going to click on the command on a Mac. I just clicked the command key, but on a PC, I think it's the control key, right? So this is selected and this is selected. If I did shift and then let me unselect this. If I did shift and clicked on this California, it's going to select all of them in between. So don't choose, the answer is not shift, it's control or command. That's it. So those are the questions that were asked on day 1, and I'm going to ask them again on the test. So let's talk about random and non-random variation. You can see in this example here, random variation affects everyone and all outcomes over time, right? So, you know, when you were collecting your run chart data, you saw your numbers went up and down and up and down, and most of you found out that what you were doing wasn't actually having an impact. So you're just getting a lot of random variation. Sometimes whatever you were trying to do to improve did have an impact, and then you started to see the trends. So non-random variation does not affect everyone or is not part of the system all the time, and it arises because of specific circumstances. Okay, we have the coronavirus going on right now. Are those specific circumstances, do you think?
Yes.
It's not normal, right? This is unusual. And I'm going to show you data that actually will show you how this is not normal, right? So, heck. All right, so here are the rules. Here are 3 of the 4 rules. So remember, a run chart is a special type of chart that includes, it always has observation data or, you know, time data. So you collect data on day 1 or at time 1 or week 1 or week 2, and you plot that data over time. And then once you have the data, you determine that there's a baseline period, and you compute a center line based on the median of that baseline period. And depending on how the data fall either above or below, or whether they appear in certain patterns, will tell you that when you have non-random variation. So a shift is any time that you have 6 or more points above or below the center lines. This is English language writing. So the center lines, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 points above the center line. And these, anytime that you have a data point that's not on the center line is called a run. So you want to see if those runs are systematic or not. And so here we have a shift. Over here, we have an astronomical point. How do we know? Well, it doesn't look like any of the other points. But we're down here, I would say, no, it's not astronomical, even though it may have been the highest point. But here it's like 90 is 3 points above them, 3 times the median. So that's something unusual going on here. A trend happens. It doesn't have to be above or below the center line, but anytime that you have 5 or more points going either up or down, that's called the trend. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 going up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 going down. Okay. Do you guys think that our coronavirus cases, daily cases, are going up or down right now?
They're going down.
Maybe. I hope. Second. So you'll be able to see that in the final, and basically we really only have 2 types of it's either going to be a shift or a trend or both with our daily cases. Don't know why this keeps doing that. Here are the rules. again, and then there's cycling. So here we have a case of Vanessa's weight. This solid line here represents the baseline, and then she's trying to go on a diet and lose weight. And obviously we don't want her weight to be just randomly staying the same. Like my weight just goes up and down typically, unless I'm doing something special, like eating less and exercising. And here Vanessa's eating less and exercising, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points below the median. So is that an example of a shift? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I guess we'll have a thumbs up.
Yeah.
All right, Josh is right. Okay, it is a shift, right? So it's a shift in the data. Just have to do it this way. There are runs and there's a shift. Some more examples of shift. Here's another example of a trend. Here's an example of cycling. Remember, this is the Disney data. We have, during the weekends, we had peaks, and then during the midweek, we had valleys, and this happens more than 14 times. This is over a course of a year, so you can see we have the cycle going up every week. And here's a couple more examples of an outlier. Okay, so let me jump into the part 2. I'm calling this part 2 of the exam, and this is basically what I'm asking you to do. So you're going to see a spreadsheet. I'm going to ask you to put your name, the section that you're in. So you're either in section 1, 2, 3, or 4. The date that you turn this in, and then here are the instructions. It's pretty basic. You're going to create 2 pivot charts and pivot tables. So you do those simultaneously for basically for 2 of the survey items in that pandemic survey data worksheet. The pivot charts, you're going to have to convert to pie charts, and I want you to show the percent labels and label the worksheet survey results charts. The second piece is based on the COVID-19 daily data in California. And I want you to create that run chart. So remember, in a run chart, you always have to have a median line. So you have to create a column of data showing that median. And you're going to base it on dates 228 to 328. Be sure to use absolute cell referencing. Show both the median and daily data line in your run chart. Keep the run chart on the same worksheet as the data. Then I want you to interpret it based on the run chart rules. And the way you do that is you identify where are there trends and shifts based on the day, and do you see the daily cases going up or down right now, or is it still too early to tell? And then submit those files to the Dropbox, which I'll have set up by either later today or tomorrow. And again, you can work on these items with your buddies. So let me take you to the worksheet that you're going to get. So let me make this bigger. Go to, so this is, again, you're just going to fill out this stuff here. Here are your instructions. Here is the pandemic survey data, right? So again, each row of data is one of you. You're either a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, and then there's just how each individual answered the questions. And here are the raw data. So this is what a real data look like, because this came from it's a download from SurveyMonkey. Right, so all those charts and graphs, remember I showed you the pie chart or the donut chart for do you support the quarantine safer at home, and 90% of you said yes, but some of you said no. So what you need to do is you have to pick, the first thing is you're going to have to pick for the first part of this exam, take home exam, is you're going to be picking 2 of these questions. So we have a whole bunch of questions. So whichever two you're interested in, are you interested in this question about feeling optimistic? Are you interested in the question about, this being more difficult, or these classes being more difficult or easier? Doesn't really matter. You just need to pick two. So they need to look like, so what you're going to do is, because this is a database, you can convert this into a pivot chart and pivot table. So I'm going to go to my home tab and then go to, the insert tab, and then go over to here where it says pivot chart. I'm going to click on that, and we want to put this in a new table or range. And so I'm going to choose OK. Remember, this is our pivot chart. Here's our pivot table, and here's where our pivot chart's going to be. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to rename this. Well, it should wind up looking like this, but we're going to go through an example. So here I chose, when this pandemic is over, I believe the world will have change for the better, change for the better, change for the worse, or be about the same. And then here's our table, here's a pivot chart. Let's just do that. Let's just pick this one right here. So we have to build this. So I need to go over here and find that question. Here it is right here. So I'm going to drag it down to the axis categories. So we're starting to build our table. Now we need the same data to populate it. So all you do is you just grab it again and move it down to the values section. And it's giving us the total number of people, but I want to convert this to a pie chart. So the way to do that is I make sure it's clicked on, and then it's here where it says pivot chart analyze. It'll look similar on a PC. I need to go to the design tab, and then over here where it says change chart type, I'm going to click on the down arrow, and I'm going to convert that to a pie chart. Move this out of the way. And it doesn't matter. I kind of like these 3D pie looking charts. And if you want to do a donut chart, for those of you that are in the police officer field, you may want a donut chart. But anyway, you can do pies, whatever your food preference is. I'm going to choose this 3D looking pie chart. And I'm not crazy about this one. Maybe this one. Here we go. So it's now showing the percentage. It automatically converted that. So basically it's taking 18 divided by 54 for about the same. It turns out to be 33%. 8 divided by 54 is 15%. And then 28 divided by 54 is 52%. So that's pretty much it. We're going to change the title to whatever the question was. Will be, that's it. So then you just need to do another one. So to do that, you're going to go back to your raw data, and you're going to go to your insert tab and click on pivot chart. But this time we want it to be the same table, but we want the pivot chart to be placed on an existing worksheet. So that should go, where is it? How do I find the existing worksheet? Normally, basically, I'm not sure why it's not allowing me to do the existing worksheet this time. Try that again. Normally, when on a PC, you can just click on the down arrow and choose the worksheet, but apparently that's not working on the Mac. So I'm just going to choose new worksheet for right now. And then again, we would start over. You're just going to pick a different variable. So pivot chart.
Computer always has issues. I don't know why my computer is having so many issues with all these charts. But for the pivot chart, when you are picking your categories, you just select each of them and then go into insert and pivot chart, correct?
The categories you use from your pivot chart fields after when you're trying to set it up. And then, so you pull each one of these categories these are questions on the survey. So you just pull it down, and maybe I'll do a different one here just to show you. Let's look at,
So after you enter pivot, you just select it over on that side. That's what.
Let me just do it real quick. So what year are you in school? Then I have to pull it down again to the values, that same question. And then I'm going to convert it to a pie chart. Make it a 2D pie chart this time. And in this case, didn't automatically default. Okay, so let's click on this one. So here we go. Here we have our percentages here. And then we have a legend. If you want it to look differently, you can go over here where it says chart layout. Do it like this. If you wanted to change the colors, you can choose your different color scheme, whatever looks good to you. I just need 2 pivot charts and pivot tables. So
Where did the values one, where was that one at? Sorry, I didn't see that.
Are you going to send us this video as well?
Yeah, I'm going to post a video.
Okay, great.
So Tara, I'm sorry. So what were your question was what? The values?
Yeah, I saw where you selected the axis categories, but the values categories, where did you select that from?
It's the exact same value. If you notice here, it says when this pandemic is over. So that's the row labels. And then the values is right here. And all it is the count of when this pandemic is over. It's the exact same question. So I can do this again. Let me just do it real quick. So when this pandemic is over, I believe the world, so I'm going to click on it. Click. Oops, sorry. I'm going to grab it, drag it down to the axis categories. So I'm starting to build it. And then I'm going to grab it again and drag it on down to the values, because it doesn't, right now it doesn't have any values. So you actually have to load the data into the value section again.
Okay.
And there, I guess.
And you want us to do 2 of these, select 2 categories?
2 questions, yep.
2 questions, yeah.
Yeah, these are, I guess you could call them categories. That's it. So that's the pivot chart and pivot tables. And then what I think is very interesting, but then I'm kind of a geek about this stuff, is the actual COVID-19 daily cases. So let's pretend that you are an analyst and you come on the job, Monday, March 9th, and they've been starting to collect data. There's this virus that's going around where people are getting really sick. It was in China, and we're looking at the data, and you can see here we have daily newly confirmed cases. So these are the confirmed cases in California. So on February 28th, there were 2 new cases. On the 29th, there were 2 new cases. And you can see on down, you can see it's starting to go up, but you don't know if this is random or if there's any kind of patterns here. So you're creating a run chart. And remember, a run chart has to have both the data and a median based on the baseline. Well, we're going to call this whole period this basically first couple of weeks of data on the baseline. And I've calculated the median. And so here's our function. The function's the median. And then here we have our absolute cell referencing. So it's saying calculate the median for B2 all the way on down to B11. And the median during this period is 9. So that means half the points fall above 9 and half of them fall below 9. And we're going to plot the data. So we want the data to ultimately look like this. This is what it looks like after it's been plotted. I'm going to come back to that. So let's just do an example. So all I do is I just highlight the data and I go to my Insert tab. Go over to here where it says Recommended Charts. And I'm going to choose this one because I can see here's the median line going straight across here, and then here are the individual data points. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to make this bigger. Not crazy about. Let's see if I can get these dates to. Let's make them look like this. And it's hard to tell where the dates are, so I'm going to choose this guy. It's got these, what are they called? Each line corresponds to the date. And here we have a run chart. So this is the actual data in California starting on February 28, 2020 on through Sunday, March 8th. So you're an analyst and you're looking at this data. And here you can see it's going up. We need to check it against our rules. But then here on Sunday, March 8th, we have a data point where it's a big drop. So should we be excited about that single data point?
No.
No. Because you need more than one data point to determine whether or not there's some special cause of variation, unless it happened to be an outlier. Now, if it went down to 0, maybe we might get a little excited about that, but it didn't go down to 0. So thinking about our run chart rules, trends or shifts, do you see any trends or shifts here?
No.
A trend is 5 or more data points, either all increasing or decreasing. Do you see that happening here? Anywhere?
No. Maybe 5 at the bottom. 1, 2, 3.
Let's start here. 1, those are called drop lines. On Monday, March 2nd, we had 5 new cases. On Tuesday, March 3rd, we had 7 new cases. All right, so is that going up? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we already hit it here, 6. So you're an analyst. Should you talk to your boss and say, hey, boss, I'm seeing a trend? Would you guys all raise your hand and say, there's something bad happening here?
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. Good, Josh. But then your boss says, well, let's wait and see. Look, it's going down right here. Your boss doesn't understand how run charts work. And so you call off the alarm and say, well, let's keep quiet and see how things are going. So the thing about data is that you need a lot of it to really understand the patterns. We have a little of it right now. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's we do have a trend going on here. But now let's look at all the data. So the data going from February 28th on to just yesterday, April 14th. So here's all the data, the new confirmed cases. Here's the median. This time I've calculated the median from B2 to B31, which is basically February 28th to March 28th. Which is what you're asked to. So we have a new median here. We're calculating a new median. Your boss says, let's wait and see how things are going. So now it's February 28th. It's we're going here. Our new median is 67. But if we look at all the data, we have some patterns going on. So your job, I'm not going to tell you what the answer is to figure out where there are any runs. Look at the runs and then see if there's any shifts or trends. I don't see any outliers here. I do see a couple of dips, and that might be interesting to explore. You know, they were getting all excited. Some people were getting excited about the data going down. But if you'll notice the pattern here on when the data goes down, what day is this? What day of the week is this? Where this one went. So here we have it's going up, and then all of a sudden we have 2 data points going down. So we might get excited about that, but what day is this?
Sunday.
Sunday. So what do you think's happening? Why do you think the cases might be going down like that? Like went down from Friday, it went down to Saturday, and it went down to Sunday.
Less people are working.
Yeah, less people are working, so there's fewer tests being conducted. Doesn't mean that fewer people are getting cases, just means that they're not tracking it. Because you'll notice back here on Monday, it went right back up. So again, over here, just this past weekend, Saturday and Sunday, it dropped down. Now we do have a drop here, so maybe it looks like it's leveling out. But you'll also notice here on Monday and Tuesday, it's going back up, unfortunately, right? And then we're not talking, by the way, we're not talking about 5 or 6. We're now looking at 1,400 new cases. Okay, so this is our growth in new cases. So we have trends, and we definitely have a shift going on here. Your job for the final is just to figure out where they're occurring.
Got it.
All right, so you're going to create this chart, interpret it, and then post it. You could just post it on the same. I would like you to just post it on the same worksheet. It's kind of interesting. I was looking, so February, the reason why I started with February 28th is because the first, I mean, it seems like it was so long ago, but it really wasn't. February 28th we only had our first death reported in the United States on February 28th. That was in Washington, state of Washington. But proud Californians should know that our governor was pretty quicker than a lot of the other governors in terms of getting on top of this thing. So he declared state of emergency as early as March 4th. You may remember that the Grand Princess cruise ship was had a bunch of passengers testing positive. San Francisco, they were on top of it. They were like the first area in California to ban large gatherings. They were using the same data. Basically, they were looking at data from other countries to see the patterns and figured that why would we be any different? So they took advantage of the data. Remember, our spring break began on March 9th. Everything, we're all happy, we're going home. We knew about all this stuff happening. And then the next thing, was, actually this was on Wednesday, but I couldn't fit it in there. So MCU announced that we're gonna move to online courses. And then in LA, it wasn't until that Wednesday we had our first death in LA. The next day, Disneyland closes, all the professional and college sports are canceled. Governor Gavin Newsom calls for bars to close. LA County the next day closes for bars and gyms to close, and all the schools closed down. And it wasn't until Thursday, March 19th, that Gavin Newsom issues that actual a real stay-at-home order where we're ordered to stay at home. And then Garcetti had that, we call it safer at home here in LA. On March 24th, we had a healthy 17-year-old unfortunately die in Lancaster. March 31st, California schools announced the closure for the remainder of the academic year. On Thursday, April 2nd, alcohol sales rise in the U.S. LA County just over the weekend is under a disaster declaration. We had Easter Sunday. This year we're celebrating Easter at home in our cars. And just yesterday, Governor Newsom announced an outline for lifting the virus closures. So we're not out of the woods yet, right? We're still got, it feels like, hey, we're at the peak. And that doesn't mean that people aren't still getting sick. 1,400 new people are getting it every single day in the state. It's not until it's going to drop way back down here, that we're going to feel safe. So how long did it take to get from here to there? March 24th to, if this is our peak, to April, that's like almost another 3 weeks before we're going to start, hopefully get back down. So they've been saying that, Newsom's been saying it's going to be, mid-March or mid-May before we're going to be able to have any relief. So you can see why. We still don't have data to show we don't have any downward trends yet, right? So this is all, these are random up here. So we're still looking for those 5 points of, we have 5 days in a row where the data are going down, then we'll know that we're hitting, we're on the downward slope, but we're not there yet, unfortunately. So there you have it, real data, both your survey data and the COVID-19 data. Some of it's more important. This is life and death stuff right here. So that's it. Questions?
I have a question. So basically, everything from Cengage is due on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Get it in.
Project is due, or I mean, the final is due next week.
Right.
Okay.
A week from tomorrow.
Got it.
So you should be done with all this stuff prior to finals week. So hopefully, if you have other finals to work on during the finals week, you'll have, this will free up time for that.
Cool.
Other questions, comments, thoughts?
If we're having,
Are you posting? Oh no.
oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
If we're having issues during the final still with the computer, can we email you?
Absolutely. I'll be here all the rest of this week, tomorrow, and if you need me on Friday, I'm around too. All next week. My scheduled office hours are 10 to 2. Hopefully you can find a slot in there. So just schedule an appointment and we can go through it and work through any issues that you have.
Okay.
You got a question, Josh?
Yeah, are you posting the video on YouTube or on the school website?
I will post it on YouTube, and I'll put the link on the school website, so you can go back through this.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. So for all the folks who didn't get a chance to join today, be sure to, hopefully tell your friends to watch the video, because I cover everything, and this hopefully was helpful. Was it helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Perfect.
Okay. So if that's it, I will end the meeting. And again, good luck with everything. Stay safe, stay sane, and hopefully we'll be through all this real soon.
Yep. You too. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks
Stay
for joining.
safe.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks. Bye.